Culture starts at the top. It starts with the leader who has to model and demonstrate the types of behaviors that they want to see, because that's the essence of what it takes to deal with setting culture. Note the quote from Satya Nadella. One of the things that he said in his book Hit Refresh was that when he was selected to be the CEO of Microsoft, he realized that his primary job was to be the curator of culture. He understood that he had to model and demonstrate 24 by 7 by 365 the culture that he expected to see throughout the organization. The way to do that, however, is not to just push, if you will, on a super tanker and think that you're going to get it to change direction quickly. You have to deal with small incremental changes, experiment and learn, innovate. And we talk about four aspects of innovation, and I'll get into those in a couple of slides, specifically incremental, sustaining, and adaptive and disruptive. We're not talking about a particular method like Scrum, but rather an approach that deals with incremental and iterative experimentation and learning. The goal is to break down silos within the organization so that people can collaborate and address culture as an aspect of innovation and improvement, because the behaviors are the way that you establish and understand culture. It's how employees feel, not how it's described. And to deal with that, we deal with something that we adopt from Johnson and Scholes called the culture web, which starts with this idea of a paradigm, which are the widely held assumptions, conscious or unconscious, knowing or unknowing, that the people within the organization and externally who work with it apply to the organization. Then we have the symbols, the visual representations of the organization, including brand logos, paint jobs, and everything else. Just to give you a quick example from real world, years ago when I worked for another company, all the employees were dealing with an orange and black, almost Halloweenish type environment on concrete floor, but the executive corner had plush carpets, nicely painted walls, art decoration. What message does that send? That's part of the symbolism that you have to consider. Power structures reflect both the formal and informal sources of influence that impact decisions, both strategic, cascading all the way through to operational decisions. They are not associated with the organizational structures. That's the next aspect of the culture web. These are the formal relationships that are related to the power structures that we just discussed. This is the stuff that you see on the org chart. Control systems describes what the organization chooses to monitor and measure in terms of understanding its performance and its controls and how resources are allocated and used. We get to rituals and routines. This is the way we do things here. It includes staff interactions. It includes what happens when somebody calls a call center, the scripts that they follow. It's the rituals and routines that are triggered by some type of or set of events. And finally, we get to stories. These are the things that the organization chooses to memorialize, but it's more than that. It's not just the stories that are told internally. What stories do ex employees tell about your organization? Because that is also an aspect of culture